All right, guys. I'm rubbing my hands together because I'm so excited about this next lineup I'm about to unleash upon you on this special episode of Submission Radio Live. We are live, brother. All right, I want to introduce this first man. You have known him from his appearances on the Submission Radio Lives. He's really made this special for me. But is he known for ordering the code red on many an MMA topic? Can he handle the truth today? Or this be all just about another set of steak knives? He definitely went to school the day they taught law at law school. But will this appearance leave him teaching typewriter maintenance at the Rocco Clubbo School for Women at Hut? Jed Meshew is on deck.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me back. I can handle the truth. It's guys like Brian Campbell who cannot. And I don't know about our other guests. We'll see. I got a lot of respect for him, but I don't know where he stands on the Jon Jones politics of it all right now.
Well, we will find out. And by the way, if people don't realize, we're doing a Tom Cruise top 3 later on in the show. So this is why my intros are what they are, because the following man will likely rethink his appearance soon on this program, but he will feel the need for speed. There's no room for second place for this man. He knows fully well you don't have time to think up here on Submission Radio Live. If you think, you're dead. Ben, folks, are you ready to turn and burn? Welcome to the Bottom Gun MMA program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. If you think you're dead is one of the rules I've tried to live by. Try to do as little thinking as possible. And I'm still alive, so it's working out pretty well so far.
Love it. So like I said, the top 3 best Tom Cruise movies of all time coming at the end of the show. Make sure you throw yours in the comment section as well. There's a big show here today, guys. And I want to kick things off with something that I don't know if you guys seen, but has been circulating the internet. We have now a petition for Jon Jones to strip his belt. 122,290 people. And there are people leaving comments. I've got a couple of featured comments that I want to share. There's a common theme. Basically, a lot of people have a lot to say, but basically one of the key things that I've noticed that's very similar is, strip and bring back respect to the sport. I used to be, people are saying, I'm going to tune out of the UFC if you don't do that. People are saying it's ruining the sport. It's an issue. Maybe we need to boycott the UFC. There's also people leaving video comments. There's this guy, Sean, and this is what he had to say.
Homie needs to be stripped. He was being a coward.
So,
Wow. That's succinct. I was expecting that he was going to lay out an argument, that he was going to make a case, and he's just we just went straight with homie needs to be stripped. He's a coward.
There are kids making videos in their school classes. Ben, folks, is this thing just getting more and more ridiculous by the day?
It is, and at a certain point, the UFC has to take some responsibility for how ridiculous it's gotten, because they've been stringing us along for a long time. They've been saying, oh, no, we're going to have something soon. Dana White keeps saying he's absolutely confident we're going to get the fight done this year. And this thing that Jon Jones said recently where he was like, hey, I told the UFC my plans, and I don't know why they haven't shared them with you. Now, obviously, Jon Jones could conceivably tell us his plans as well. He doesn't need to filter it through the UFC. But if he really told them something along the lines of hey, I'm not going to fight for a while, if ever, maybe see you in 2026, maybe not. Whatever he told them, if this delay in even getting a fight signed is something that he told them to expect, and meanwhile they've been turning around and telling us and Tom Aspinall any day now it's coming, then that's a blatant misrepresentation, and they have to take some share of the blame for why people are so upset about it now. Because think about it, if you told people, hey, this fight is coming in the fall or early next year, even, people wouldn't like the wait that long, but they would accept it. They would at least like to know that there's some plan in place. And here it just seems like Jon Jones is nowhere near even looking like he's beginning a fight camp. He's riding on the back of a motorbike in Thailand. And meanwhile, you have Tom Aspinall, in the prime of his career, just sitting there wasting time, getting frustrated. That's an avoidable situation one way or another for the UFC.
Jed, Ben is right. He's on the back of a motorcycle, rubbing his hands through the hair of a man who tried to beat up Nate Diaz and got him to basically run out of the country with Jake Shields. How much more ridiculous is this going to get before we get the final answer here, in your opinion?
Oh, it's apparently just going to be the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened. The UFC apparently has no interest in this. They do not care. I think that the petition is frankly deeply hilarious. It won't move the needle at all. My great hope is that when I attend the Atlanta event in a couple of weeks, is that Dana White is there and I can just be like, hey, Dana, here's this petition. What's going on? Because I just want to see him respond to that. But that's all we're going to get out of it. That he's not going to look at that and be like, Sean sent a video message saying he must be stripped, so now is the time to take the belt from Jonathan. No, like they're just going to keep doing this because they don't care. Dana White specifically has some blind spot about Jon Jones that truly boggles the mind, because I am old enough in this sport to remember when Jon was a sport killer. I have been around long enough to remember when Jon would never headline an event again because of the minor inconveniences he put the promotion through. And now, all of last year was the Dana argues against every human being alive that Jon is the best pound for pound fighter in the world, until finally he has to acknowledge he was wrong. And now it's the Jon will fight this man. I don't give a shit about my young, exciting heavyweight champion because I'm holding on to this desperate hope that Jon will give us one last pay-per-view. Like, I honestly do not get it, but nothing is changing. Like, they don't give a shit. And I know that every possible argument that has been made, I could believe any of them are true. If you told me that in Dana White's heart of hearts, he just loves Jon Jones and respects the sport, and this is all because he wants to give Jon every benefit of the doubt, I would say, okay, that's silly, but I could believe that that's true. If you told me this is a cynical move to delay this fight until next year and their new broadcast partner, I could believe anything is going on except that this fight is going to happen. I'll never fucking believe that until the cage door closes and they start throwing fists at each other. Because until it happens, it ain't fucking happening. And we all just need to get on board with moving down the road.
Okay, well, hold on a sec. I think that's a good point. But in hindsight, Ben, has Dana White fumbled the bag here? Like, he came out, he said the fight was going to happen. So he gave Jon Jones some leverage. He let him keep the belt. Obviously, he wanted this fight to happen. International Fight Week. It hasn't happened. He's given Jon Jones every benefit of the doubt. He gave him sort of, I guess, the upper hand, right, in the negotiations. Like, when you're saying something's going to happen, that kind of puts pressure on the promotion to make it happen. And he's delayed what's happening in the division by this much, putting himself and the organization in kind of a shitty position, including your biggest, youngest star in Tom Aspinall. Has Dana White kind of fumbled the bag in this negotiation? Usually we see him being pretty cutthroat, telling people, nah, it's not going to happen, not really announcing shit until it's done. Well, he's announced a few things, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and he's also put himself in a situation where Jon Jones could make a fool of him by simply not doing the fight. Because Dana White, like Jed said, that he went on that tour basically just wanting to argue with people about whether Jon Jones is the greatest of all time. He really, really put himself on that side and then kept telling us, yeah, Jon's going to do this fight. I'm totally confident we're going to get this fight done. And so if Jon Jones just never does it and tells us, like, yeah, I told the UFC I wasn't going to do it, he really makes Dana White kind of look like an asshole here. And like, that's not somebody you want to have that power over you, is Jon Jones, because, you know, he might abuse that power. We've seen him do stuff like that before.
No.
At this point, you know, whatever, he seems like the thing that you don't hear Jon Jones say, which I think is very telling in all this stuff. People are tweeting at him. You never know who's going to be the one to get a response out of him on Twitter, because it could just be some rando where he's like, you know, at Diaz Bro Hardcore 420, and like he'll tweet something and Jon Jones will choose that one to respond to, and that's how we'll end up probably getting news of his retirement announcement one day. But like the thing you never hear him say is, look, I'm going to beat Tom Aspinall's ass on my time. You know, he's never said, like, this guy is not that tough. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to beat him. Like, that's the kind of stuff that he would say about somebody else. You've just never heard him say it about Tom Aspinall. It just doesn't seem like he is even really thinking about doing this fight.
He has never, in almost 2 full years of this at this point, shown the slightest interest in fighting Tom Aspinall. He has at most grudgingly said, I'll do it if they pay me a buttload, which is like, yeah, I'd do a lot of things if they'd pay me a buttload, but I'm not out here signing up to voluntarily go cut off my foot. But there is a number we could talk about to get there. That is how he treats Tom Aspinall, as if he is willingly sticking an appendage into a wood thresher, and you're going to have to pay for the privilege of that. But he is even ahead of the Stipe fight, which was a farce. It was, I don't really want to fight Tom. I want to fight Alex Pereira. Like, that was just an overt statement that he made. It's just like, yeah, I want to do that instead. He doesn't have any interest in him, so he's not going to do it.
Ben, how's this situation finishing up? Go into the future and tell us what's happening.
Jon Jones crashes a moped in Thailand, and maybe here's the thing. Here's one thing history tells us, is that sometimes Jon Jones, when given too much time off, when given too much time to himself, will sometimes create problems for himself. Sometimes will go get himself into trouble. And honestly, especially in recent years, the time he seemed most interested in fighting is when he has done something bad that people are looking at him and saying, we think you might be a bad guy because he did this thing. And then he gets a lot more interested in me, like, I would like to go back and win a fight so that you guys are talking about what a good fighter I am. That, I think, is a real possibility, especially the more time he has off, the more likely it is that he gets into something. But also, I think I can absolutely see a situation where the UFC gets to a point where they go, all right, this is kind of absurd. We do need to move on. You know, Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane or whatever, to move on and have there be an actual UFC heavyweight title in play. I think once Jon Jones had a chance to see that, to see how quickly people would move on, see how quickly the UFC would move on and how quickly they'd be talking about Tom Aspinall as the guy, I think he'd hate it. And I think that he would not be having quite so much fun anymore. And then I think he'd want back in. I think that's true whether he actively said, I'm retired, or whether the UFC just takes the belt off him. I think once it's the rest of the sport stops asking him when he's going to fight Tom Aspinall, and stops talking about him even in that conversation, I think he really, really hates that. And then he'll want back in.
Jed?
He's never fighting Tom Aspinall. He's retired. He just hasn't said it yet. I think this will carry on until November, when the UFC, my belief, my best guess is that we are in the Dana White Khabib mindset of, John has said no, but maybe he'll say yes later. And they don't, they need fights, but is anybody pumped about Tom versus Cyril Gane? Like, if there was another clear-cut heavyweight contender that was like awesome that people were interested in, they would just make moves forward with that at this point. But in the absence of somebody like jumping up to the top of the table like that, I think they're comfortable just sitting Tom on ice and saying like, hey, our hard line is Madison Square Garden. If Jon doesn't, because very clearly this is the final fight of Jon's career. If it happens, if he fights again, this is going to be the only one. And so Madison Square Garden would make sense in that regard. And they can say, hey, look, we're holding out for November. If by November, Jon is still saying, no, we're taking the title off him, you'll headline MSG against whoever it ends up being at that point in time. So I suspect that Jon will just keep trolling people, being kind of shitty online, but like not overtly shitty, at least mostly having his best life. Because like, if he was going to fight Tom, he should have already fought Tom. Like, the longer he waits, the worse the fight gets for him.
Yeah.
Like, if he sits out a year and then, to Ben's point, gets FOMO, well, now he's 39 instead of 38, and Tom is better because Tom is the one of the two fighters that is improving. Jon is not the best Jon we have ever seen, and he never will be again, because that's how time works. He is getting worse every day this delays. If he wanted to fight, and Jon, whatever you think of Jon Jones, that man is a fighting genius. That man is very, very aware of fighting, all the intricate pieces to it, how it works. And like, I thought you could see it in the Stipe fight and around it, that he knew that I don't have my fastball anymore. I'm not what I once was, because I'm 37 years old, 38 years old. He has to acknowledge that that is true forevermore. And that's why this is a risky fight. And so why take the risk? I don't blame him for this. I wouldn't do it if I were Jon either. The only thing I blame him is being like an ass about how long this is taking. Just, you could be cooler about this and just retire, because I do think that's where we're ending.
I feel like that's true, Jed, but is he dragging out Tom Aspinall just being like in limbo and making it like, can you imagine if they do fight, he drags this out for another 6 months past November or whatever, and then Tom Aspinall fights and loses. Now you got a guy that sat out for this amount of time, losing to Jon Jones. Like, that's like a worst case scenario for Tom Aspinall. But we got a question here for you fellas. What do you mean, sitting out for a year and a bit and then losing to Jon Jones? What?
Yeah, but the thing is, John's not going to have a long title reign. John's going to retire as the greatest fighter who ever did it. Losing to the greatest fighter of all time is not that bad, and he will immediately kill whoever the next duty is. If it's Jailton Almeida, like, it's not a great outcome, but it's not a bad outcome. Conversely, if John delays this thing for as long as he does, fights and gets annihilated, people are going to be like, wow, that was dumb, and that was a really ignominious end for arguably the greatest fighter who has ever lived. Like, he is only making this worse by delaying it, which is why I am so confident that this fight is not happening, unless, because there's no, like, if his whole mindset is I'm not going to fight him, then there's no downside to this. Do you think he doesn't give a fuck what Tom or anybody thinks? Jon Jones is a sociopath. He could not care less what people think in regard to this. Like, that is meaningless to him. Like, as far as like doing right by others or whatever.
Okay.
So if he can just hold this out and maybe they do come with the $50 million that would make it worth it. Okay. But until they say, here's 20, take it or leave it, he'll just be like, I'm going to wait. And then I get that. That's just negotiation.
I mean, you're right that he does not care about being good to other people.
Correct.
He deeply
That's what I
cares
meant.
what
what I
people
meant,
think
but yes.
about him and like legacy. He talks about it all the time. It's why he wanted the Stipe fight, because it looks good on paper. It looks good on the resume to have Stipe Miocic, the guy who can claim that he was the greatest UFC heavyweight champ of all time, according to consecutive title defenses. Hey, I went in there and beat him. Don't dig too deep into it to realize that he was like a retired firefighter at that point who hadn't fought in a few years. Like, he wanted the pelt on the wall.
I'm sorry. Did you say 2 years? Because that's not correct. It was 3.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure he couldn't walk. I'm pretty sure he
hadn't won a fight in 4 years.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I think he really does care about, like, he wants us to say a certain thing about his legacy. And honestly, for legacy reasons, if you came and you fought Tom Aspinall and you got knocked out, I feel like we'd understand that as fight fans. Would be like, you got old. You stayed too long. You got old. We know that division. Story. Yes, yeah. And yeah, you're up a division. We understand that. We know how to make sense of that. If you dick us around for a year and then are just sort of like, I retired without ever really saying it. You didn't get that moment of standing there in the cage saying, thanks everybody, I appreciate it. You just kind of made everybody slowly angrier at you and then sort of faded away. I think that looks a lot worse for the legacy than it even would to come back and get knocked out by Tom Aspinall in a way where you were like, hey, I'm ready to take on the next challenge. I also think you're right, though, that if you're going to do it, you should do it soon, because especially knowing what we know about Jon Jones, you're right. He's in his late 30s now. And if you go from the nightclubs of Thailand to then fighting Tom Aspinall in a cage at this age, you're just stacking things against you. When, like, skill-wise, you'd think Jon Jones has tools. He could figure out a way to beat Tom Aspinall. But if you're old and you've been partying and you haven't been training, you make it so much harder for yourself.
Question here from one of the watchers. How many pay-per-view buys does Aspinall versus Almeida do if that does end up headlining Madison Square Garden in New York, Ben?
I mean, do we even get a good sense anymore of how many pay-per-view buys any of this stuff is doing? Like, I feel like we're all just going to...
They all do terrible now.
They'll get paid a set amount, right? Like, every pay-per-view ESPN pays. I think it's like, people are saying like a couple of 100,000 pay-per-view buys or something is what they get usually, I think, from ESPN.
It's basically their set standard. But yeah, like there's recent reporting that all pay-per-views are just terrible now.
Basically dying. It's a dying medium, right?
Yeah, well, and and
all the pay-per-views are bad.
Right. Like, what we see now,
that doesn't help either.
We
got one coming up next week.
When they're trying to sell us a pay-per-view, I feel like their best chance is when you're selling us a full pay-per-view, when you're selling us a main card that has at least 3 fights, hopefully more, that we really want to see. Because if you're just selling us a heavyweight main event, people are going to be like, I feel like I could probably find this. without paying you guys $80 for it. Like it's going to be out there, especially if it's a heavyweight main event. They're going,
It's Tom Aspinall. That thing is going to be clipped. The
I might
60-second fight is going to be online.
I might get 90 seconds of action, and if there's no other fights on that thing I care about, why would I pay you that premium price for it? And for all the UFC's bluster about piracy and Dana White's talk about it and how aggressive they've been about people just trying to make their own YouTube highlights and all these kinds of things, they've not made any headway in stopping piracy of their pay-per-views at all. Like it's all been complete bullshit. So
all the partnership deals have killed that. Like you can't, like you go on a BT Sports social media, they'll share it if the UFC doesn't. You know, like you guys might as well just share it. Like they just
or
share
just
the
like
minutes
foreign
before the
rights
finish,
deals.
like,
Like if you have some deal to broadcast this stuff in Liechtenstein or something, and that's all they need. That's the hole in the net. That there goes, your pay-per-view stream. So they haven't been able to make any headway, and that's, I think, would hurt. Like Aspinall versus Almeida would do probably whatever the typical UFC pay-per-view does, but a little more because people like heavyweights.
I feel like the Garn fight's probably the bigger fight. There's something there that he called him a thespian here on Submission Radio. There's the fighting words, Jed.
I don't think either's a bigger fight. I think they're all the same. I think that they are marginally above like the standard issue pay-per-view because like I look at this from a very basic standpoint of piracy doesn't matter because you only pirate things that you aren't willing to pay for. Like, and the UFC doesn't give us a product that people are willing to pay for. Like more often than not, 300. Absolutely. I would have paid $300 to watch UFC 300. I don't support piracy because that's bad. If I were not in the media and were just watching fights personally next week, I would find it hard to drop $80 for that event.
Oh man,
I would watch that event if it were free or considerably cheaper than $80. And that's the calculus. Like people are going to feel that way about a Tom Aspinall versus, because it's going to feel bad too. Like that fight, we have focused so much on this one fight. And now instead of Tom versus John, you get Tom versus Jailton. People, there will be a tangible backlash, but it's not going to be $100,000. Like they'll sell the 250 that they stock do.
Dude, I think it's like $60 Australian here, which is like $38 your currency over here. And even I find that to be too expensive. You just go to the pub and watch it in the morning here. Thanks, Spencer, for the love about bringing these legends together. Jed and Ben, smartest voices in the biz. Do you guys have a non-MMA, non-main event UFC fight you three are most excited for? I don't know, like I'm interested in this Pico Mosar fight that's going to be happening in Dubai. There's got a lot of implications to it. Anything stand out to you guys? Not a main event, I guess. I
would say Patchy Mix, and
Patchy Mix is obviously a big choice.
Yeah, just you want to see how he shows up and makes the transition. We've seen different levels of success for people coming over and making that transition, and sometimes it seems like still you get a little bit of the old school UFC mentality where when they get somebody from another organization, the first thing they want to do is get them beat over here and in a non-spectacular opponent. But this is one where it feels like, okay, we're getting an interesting matchup. I want to see how he looks.
Yeah,
I'll throw out Royval Kopp at UFC 317. That fight rips. Very silly that fight's happening, but whatever. And then under the radar, Baku co-main event.
Yeah,
Rafael Fiziev, Ignacio Bahamondes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
As a heater.
That's a heater right there. And a quick one here. Would this heavyweight situation have looked different if Sergey won the belt, because the fight nearly isn't as big and would have John just retired? I reckon John would have ran back for that fight like a speed bullet, right? Sergey is the champion, heavyweight champion. John would just run back because I reckon that's a pretty easy fight for John, right? Just take him down, beat him.
I mean, I don't know.
To me, it's like, I don't think that his calculus right now is really that he's scared or that he thinks that these guys are so terrifying that he doesn't want to get in there with them. I think he just feels like he's getting older. He did kind of what he came to do. If it's not something that is super motivating, either money or, name recognition wise, that he's not getting in there. Like, even if we sat here and said like, hey, I think Tom Aspinall is a dude who could beat Jon Jones, especially this version, there's no way I think that Jon Jones would think it, even if it were true. I think that the last thing to go for a lot of fighters is their ability to talk themselves into thinking they'll destroy anybody on earth.
Mm. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I spent a little bit of time with Jon Jones. Me and Casper interviewed him here in Melbourne. He's a very interesting guy. I don't know. It's like there's all these weird versions of him. He was like very humble and strangely like very shy when we spoke to him, like wouldn't make eye contact and was just kind of like in his own little world. But I don't know. He's got different modes. He's got different modes. Hey, just quickly, so people aren't fans, obviously, of this whole situation with Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. We'll see what happens if this fight doesn't make. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of fans that might tune out of the product because they'll be over it. But another fight that's popped up that's absolutely ridiculous is this Alex Volkanovski Yair Rodriguez rematch, right? We thought Mosa was going to get this title fight. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. There were potential other names that we could potentially slot it in. That didn't happen. Jed, I want to go to you first. Are we really getting this Volkanovski Yair rematch? And we already saw Volk absolutely dominate Yair recently. We could have had Yair Diego Lopez in Mexico. We could have had Yair X anybody else in the division to make it more exciting. Is the UFC really pulling this card right now for us to deal with?
It kind of seems like they are, and buddy, that sucks. Like, it sucks for a lot of reasons. Like, it's probably the most undeserved title fight in recent memory. Like, I mean, the Stipe one is up there, but like, you can squint your eyes and at least tell yourself a story about the Stipe fight. Like, there's no story to tell. This is a trend. Like, the Cheeto Vera Sean O'Malley fight was bad, but at least he did have a win. Oh, like, this is just a straight transparent. We're trying to get Volk another win, and or, you know, we really just don't want Movsar to be near the title. We're just not interested in that in any fashion we can do it in. It would be terrible if it happens. I sincerely hope it doesn't happen because, frankly, I need to know who the best featherweight on earth is, and I don't find that out by those two dudes fighting. That is like, I find that out when Movsar Evloev fights Volkanovski. That is how we will determine who the best featherweight on earth is. And I don't know what to make of Volk's second title run if that's where we go here. Because like right now, at this point, there's just no way to really contextualize Volkanovski's title reign outside of Jose Aldo. Like, those two are the guys, right? And there's a lot of parallels. And right now, this is the Aldo reclaimed the belt by beating Frankie Edgar. Wasn't the best featherweight on earth, but he did get the belt back. The same thing could be said of Volk right now. If Topuria says, F it, I'm going back down, Volk is not the best featherweight on earth. 2 fights over not the next guy is tough because, like, yes, I know people were pumped on the Lopez thing. I think that fight is explicable because he was on a good run, etc. He did lose to Movsar. Movsar was clearly the guy who should have gotten it in a purely meritocratic world. And now we're passing him over again for a totally vacuous title fight. Like, I won't know what to make of the Volk tier 2 title reign. And so then when we're going to start inevitably stay in the Volk versus Aldo conversation, be like, I don't know what to make. I know what to make of 5 of his title defenses. They were rock solid and great. I have no idea what to do with these other 2 title fights that he's had because they weren't against the best guy in the weight class other than himself. I need Movsar Evloev to fight this guy, and instead we're getting the Pico fight, which is a pretty fun fight itself, but a travesty of matchmaking.
And Ben, I mean, Jed said it himself. That should be the fight. I mean, Volk himself has said he wants Mosa. Mosa said he wants Volk. I mean, can this thing, Mosa's got that O that Volk wants. Like Jed said, it helps for the legacy, even though, you know, you and me both think that Alex Volkanovski is the featherweight goat already, right? We don't need to see anything else from him. But why is the UFC pulling such a stupid move right now where it's such a no-brainer? Especially with the fact that if you're looking at the point of like, all right, we don't want Mosa to be the champion. Well, Alex Volkanovski has the perfect game to just beat him, right?
Well, I think that they're not in a hurry to have Mosa be the champion, but I also think that the UFC is, at this point, they kind of, I don't know if they care enough to really manicure it that far in advance. I think really what this is the schedule. This is like, hey, we want to do this fight, go do the Noche event. Yair makes more sense for that. So you put him in there in a title fight main event. That works for you. And then if Mosar wins, you can just get around to that one later. I don't think they think they're losing anything by keeping Mosar away from the belt just a little bit longer. But I also think that it's not anything where they go like, this guy is going to be a rocket ship to the top at the box office. We got to hurry up and get there.
I think it's one of those situations where they're underestimating how much people are going to not want to watch that event if it's going to be like Yair and Volk 2 and something else crappy underneath, right? Like, it's like, guys, this is a no-brainer. What about some of these other fights that have been announced? I just want to quickly get your thoughts on it. Jed, are you a fan of this? Nothing's official. Moraes versus Leon Edwards fight that's apparently in the works. I don't know if it's really happening, but if that is the next fight for Leon Edwards, are you a fan of this one?
Wait, what is this?
Morales versus Leon Edwards.
It's tough scenes for Leon Edwards, right? Like
not giving him an easy fight.
Let's say former champ not getting, let's let you rebound against, an old timer out there. Let's do the Wonder Boy thing. It's like, nope, let's put you in against the young killer. But I think that makes sense. There's too many fun, exciting names coming up at welterweight right now for you to play let's just play back the hits thing. Let's do Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 5. Like, you got to let these dudes earn their keep. Tough for Leon in that location, but that's just the way of the world. If I were him, I would have lobbied hard for Carlos Prates, just because Michael Morales, I know, has a little bit of juice, but Carlos Prates, he is much more the people's guy right now. So at least if you're taking that risk, take it against a guy you're going to get more credit for with the win. But I think it's fine matchmaking and a really good opportunity for Morales, who still young and just looks to be really in the mix of these 6-7 dudes who've come out of nowhere welterweight.
8-inch reach advantage. I mean, as someone with a 5-inch reach, I understand, and I'm not talking about my hands, I understand that those 3 inches make a big difference. Ben, what about Bilal versus Shavkat? John Anik announced that on his podcast. I don't know if that's real. I saw that Shavkat's manager, Danny, sort of knocked that back. But if that was the next fight for Bilal Shavkat, do you think that makes sense, especially with Islam moving up and potentially, fighting for this belt next?
Yeah, I mean, Shavkat, I understand he got the injury came at a bad time for him, and he really seems to have kind of missed his window there. But I feel bad for the guy because he did so much to sort of cement himself as the top contender there. And he was trying, when he had to take a step back for the injury, and he posted this tweet about it where he was like, hey, they came to me with a title fight offer first. I had to say no. So Jack Della Maddalena, again, he was trying to remind us all, because he knows how this works, that you miss your call, and the next thing you know, being the number one contender doesn't mean anything anymore. Having to go in there and fight Bilal is sort of like a weird making a wish on a monkey paw situation for him, because it's like that's what he thought he was going to be doing right now. Hey, you still get that Bilal fight. That's the good news. The bad news is no title around it anymore. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would kind of make sense, because you're saying, hey, if Islam is going to go up to fight for the title, that knocks you back even further in terms of timeline for a title fight. You got to eventually get back in there and fight somebody. You know how it goes in the sport. People forget you really quickly if you're not in action. It's a little bit of a tough out to have to go out there, fight all these tough guys just to get to the belt. We've seen people go through that before, where by the time they do finally get the title shot, they spend a lot of their best stuff just getting there.
Bilal, a lot of these guys, right?
Well,
the juice is loose.
I don't know how much of that was the case with Bilal. I mean, he was also getting into his mid-30s and everything, getting into a tough time for just fighters in general to keep winning those title fights in those kind of weight classes. And then maybe didn't go with the absolute smartest game plan that he could have against JDM there. But I mean, and for Bilal and Leon Edwards are kind of along that generation of welterweights now, where it seems like you blinked and the page got turned on a whole generation of those guys kind of all at once, where it feels like yesterday those were all the guys, where it was like Bilal, Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, I groan to say it, but even Colby Covington, and now they are all just feel like yesterday's news.
You know what won't be yesterday's news, though, guys? Smooth balls. And smooth balls come with our friends at Manscaped, who give you 15% off and free shipping with the code word submission. I want to talk to you guys about the Chairman Pro. Look at this bad boy. Look at that, Jed. Isn't that sexy right there? The Chairman Pro. Beautiful, beautiful high-tech grooming upgrade. Electric face shaver. Can tackle up to 5 days of growth. Features 2 interchangeable blade heads. Flexi Adjust technology, waterproof, battery life, and display. Tells you exactly how much battery life you have left, but you won't need to look at it much with the 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge. Comes the USB-C cable and wireless compatible to Travel Lock, LED Spotlight, 2-year warranty with Manscaped. And of course, if you use that code word, guys, you support the show. And if you support the show, there's more sick degenerates like the guys here today that come on the program that are able to talk some crap here on Submission Radio Live. So make sure you jump on Manscaped today. Use the link in the description below. Get yourself some Manscaped. And if you're looking to travel around the world, you don't want to get a SIM card every time you do that. Saley is your ultimate eSIM. Saley.com/submission gets you an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. It is the best eSIM in the game. You don't have to take out a SIM card every time you travel. Avoid roaming costs. There's security features, ad blockers, so you don't use your data on silly stuff. And you can upgrade and add data as you go. So you're always covered, global and regional plans. You will never run out of data. It's easy to use. It's all easy on one SIM, on one app. No need to line up in the airport. No need to get locked into weird deals in weird countries and have your data stolen. Saley has you sorted. Saley.com/submission. 15% off. Huh? Not a bad little burner phone for you, Jed, when every time you go do those secret side missions that we don't know about.
How many percents off? I
15!
didn't hear 15. 15.
5 times. Please buy the things. I don't want to stop doing the show. All right, guys. But just quickly, Ben, this time next year, who's the welterweight champion?
Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Oh, all right.
That boy good. That boy good.
The boy is very good. Islam Makhachev, but I think I'm a little more optimistic for Shavkat than Ben is. I think they're going to let him sit out and get the next fight because Islam versus Shavkat, that's pretty big business for the promotion. If not, like JDM versus Shavkat is also pretty good. And this isn't, look, I know that this is a little naive, but it's not totally naive. The UFC does in general like to do favors for fighters who do favors for them. They won't do it if it comes at the expense of something else. But Shavkat didn't kill UFC 310. Like he had his title fight and he said, I'll fight Ian Machado Gary on 4 days notice or whatever. I don't give a shit. And I think the UFC is going to respect that. They didn't hold Bilal because business must go on, but I think he'll be ready. He'll be cage side whenever Islam and Jack go. I think Islam's going to win that fight. That's my early prediction there. And next year, those two will go. And F it. Let's just say Islam Makhachev. This guy that everybody's completely forgotten about in their urgency to tell the story of Ilia Topuria's greatness might actually end up just being like the greatest fighter who's ever lived, Islam Makhachev. So let's do it.
What about International Fight Week next year? Islam, Ilya, third belt. Could that be a possibility? I wonder. We got someone here in the question section. Spencer, boys, is it me or are there less Apex events on the calendar and cards looking deeper recently? Response to fans because they need to attract a new TV deal. I don't know. Like we have had some cool announcements. DDP, Hamzat. Obviously, maybe if Jon Jones Aspinall happens in November, there could be something. I like this Robert Whittaker RDR fight. But then there's also so many dumb matchmaking decisions like this Alex Volkanovski, like Yair thing that's coming together and a lot of dumb fights that are sort of being made together. What do you boys think? Is the UFC starting to sweat because this new deal is coming up, or is this just a coincidence that they finally made a few of the right decisions? Ben, what do you think?
Well, they did tell us that they were going to get out on the road a little bit more. And they also said we're never totally going away from the Apex events. But I think that they realized too, like you can't just stay home and do the Apex all the time. Because for one thing, fighters hate it. Fans hate it. It's very clear and immediately evident that this is the lowest tier of UFC programming every time you see it, because it just feels so low energy. And especially when you have big names and potential big fights that you're trying to put forward, you don't get a real pop from it if you're doing it in the Apex in front of like 40 people. It just feels like it completely meaningless when it happens there. And when we see them go out on the road, especially go to some of these cities where they don't see a whole lot of UFC events, you're selling those out most of the time just by saying there is a UFC event here on that date before you add anybody to the card. And also the fans, I think, get the message, hey, when you take a show out on the road, that means it must be at least a little bit better. It's not the absolute lowest tier of UFC programming. So I think that they see that there's money to be made those way that you want to keep getting out on the road and keep stoking the fires of a fan base in some of these other places. And plus, they've worked it so that they get money from so many different cities just to bring a show there.
Yeah, that's really their business now. Just going to cities and getting.
It took been a while to get to the actual answer, which is that. Look, if you wonder why the UFC is doing anything 99 times out of 100, the answer is money. When it is more profitable for them to be in the Apex because there's a global pandemic and they can't go anywhere else, they'll be in the Apex. When it's more profitable to be in the Apex because the overhead costs to run a show out of the Apex with exclusively Contender Series contracts are minimal, they'll be in the Apex. When someone's going to pay you $1 million site fee and they can sell out an arena, they're going to be on the road. The summer just happens to be a time when arenas are much more likely to try and bring people in to do shows. And so, they're going to Baku for the first time ever. Like this, I suspect this is how things will look moving forward. The summer schedule will be minimal Apex ventures because they can go to location and get site fees and make all that money. That is like, look at the schedule. There ain't one of these places they're going that's not paying them a king's ransom to attend. And when you ask the question like, weird that the UFC hasn't been to Chicago, one of the biggest markets in the world in like 20 years. The answer is, well, Chicago hasn't paid them. And now Chicago's paying them and they're going back. So yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah, you're saying that they didn't just keep going to Salt Lake City because they enjoyed it so much?
They did not go to a place with high elevation that made worse fights and has no discernible fight culture. Nope, that was not out of the goodness of their hearts.
The restaurants close at 9:00, so
they just love the Book of Mormon. They love the Book of Mormon. And by the way,
I don't think Salt Lake City loves the Book of Mormon.
And by the way, just the fact that they're in Perth every year, and I love the people that watch the show in Perth, but just having to even for me to fly 6 hours or whatever it takes to go to Perth, I'm just like, why is it in Perth every single year? Why isn't it in other major cities, even like Melbourne and Sydney? UFC 316 coming up next week, fellas. Let's get an early feel on this card. I've put up some of the main card via Google here. Apache Mix, kind of a mysterious figure there against Batista. Google's not quite sure what he looks like just yet, but we know that he's going to bring some action. You guys mentioned this is an exciting fight that's been added to the card. Ben, give me a rating of this card out of 10.
Well, I mean, it does have Montana.
And you'll be paying $80 for it, don't forget.
Well, somebody will. Having Sean O'Malley, Montana's own Sean O'Malley, on there as a Montanan myself, I'm honor bound to support that one. But basically, just because Sean O'Malley and Merab and then Kayla Harrison, that's right there gets me to about a 6.5 out of 10.
6.5 out of 10. Jed, how you feeling about this? A lot of people aren't really that enthused to see this rematch. Even though we're not from Montana, we're not that excited to see Sean O'Malley get this crack at Merab. Feels like fans just think Merab's going to walk through him broken toe or not. And then this co-main between Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison kind of has a little bit of fire to it. But again, Pena not really someone that's like a huge drawing champion. How do you feel about this card?
This card is mid. The main event is terrible. And that's even acknowledging that, I think that fight can be competitive and close. O'Malley gave a decent accounting of himself against Merab if we take him at his word. And I don't think there's a reason not to. If he had a torn labrum in his hip, that is legitimately a problem that would prevent him training appropriately for a guy like Merab. If we assume that is better, maybe he can do better. And of all the dudes in this weight class, O'Malley does at least have a skill set that could potentially be more problematic for Merab, especially if Merab's overconfident, comes in, maybe something can happen. I'm not saying Sean can't win. I'm just saying this fight is a travesty, shouldn't occur, and I hate it. And so I'm not that interested. But also, part of that's not even Sean O'Malley's. Like, I have a great amount of respect for what Merab Dvalishvili is able to accomplish. He is deeply uninteresting to me. The way he competes is not interesting to me. I respect that it's very good. He's the best bantamweight on earth and starting to make a case as the best bantamweight ever. Just an uninteresting fighter. The co-main event is the fight that I'm interested in. I suspect Kayla Harrison wins this, but Juliana Pena, tougher than a $2 stake. If Juliana Pena loses, that's great. It's always fun to watch Juliana Pena lose. And can Kayla Harrison save women's bantamweight? Because I don't think she can, but they need a savior. It desperately needs something, and she is the best hope they've got. So there's that. Don't care at all about Joe Pyfer versus Kelvin Gastelum. I'm sure it'll be fun. Just don't care. Patchy Mix is the other draw here. I'm very excited to see him kind of come into the UFC in a weight class which desperately needs him right now. I know bantamweight is a very good weight class, but right now Merab has a bunch of rematches ahead of him. Patchy can come get a statement victory. Maybe we can just slingshot him to the front of the line and do something fun there. Vicente Luque, Kevin Holland is what it is, and the rest of this undercard is poop. So this really mid card, if I lived in Newark, I would probably go, depending on ticket prices. But if I lived in New York and had to take the train, I don't think I'm doing it.
Dude, for ticket prices, it's like $1 billion to go watch a UFC. Trust me, you're not going if you live nearby. You'll just watch it later. I was going to say, though, that Patchy Mix, this is interesting at least, right? He's on the same card as Merab, Sean O'Malley. Ben, if Patchy Mix goes out here and makes a statement, which is still a big if, because Batista's still a tough dude, does he go to the front of the line ahead of Corey Sandhagen, Piotr Jan, for example? Or do you think he just make this Corey Sandhagen Patchy Mix fight, for example, and then the winner of that goes on to a title match? How would you book this if you were?
I mean, I think a lot depends not only on winning, but on what kind of an impression you make. Because you know how fight fans are; they'll get really excited about what they saw last. It kind of can erase.
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, if you come out here and have a really great, memorable moment, and you make the most of it when you get your time on the microphone, all that kind of stuff. We've seen crazier things happen because we get excited about a new face being added to the mix here, and especially. There are times where if we don't know much about you, it hurts you. But then there are times where if we don't know much about you, you kind of become a blank slate and we don't have a reason to hate you yet. We don't have a reason to feel negatively. That can work in your favor sometimes as a guy coming from another organization who maybe a lot of these fans have heard of, but haven't really seen that much of in action. So, I could see, especially because it feels like everybody else kind of bantamweight, we've seen it. We've kind of seen them all match up against each other. Corey Sandhagen is one of the exceptions where where it's like, hey, I haven't been beat up by these guys yet. Give me a chance. But other than that, you get to a point where it feels like it's just been a small club of guys fighting each other. And when you get a new face in there, he can kind of jump to the front of the line if he does the right stuff.
If you're Tim Welch, Jed, are we yelling things at Merab in this fight? Last time Merab lost his mind.
Why not? I don't know if it'll help, but what's it going to hurt?
Well, he lost his mind last time. I don't know if it helped, but he lost his mind.
Yeah, maybe Merab starts talking to him and Sean jaws him as a result because he's not paying attention. No reason not to do it because maybe there's upside, but I would spend more time yelling at your own fighter to not get taken down a bunch because that's the most likely outcome.
I'm yelling foot stomp over and over. That's what I'm doing.
Foot stomp.
Head movement. Head movement.
Hey, you're going to tell me you're coming in there with a busted toe? I'm foot stomping you for sure.
Are you allowed to grab the toes, or is that manipulation?
I think
that is small joint manipulation for sure.
It's the pinky toe.
Literally the textbook definition of small joint manipulation.
Hey, it's the pinky toe, all right? It's the pinky toe. Let's say that does happen, though. Somehow he foot stops and Ben Sean O'Malley walks out as the champion. We haven't even thought about that scenario.
That's funny as hell.
That kind of Merab's never getting a title shot again. We can all agree on that. He's gone forever, much like Bilal is.
No chance that's a trilogy coming.
They're pushing him all the way down, back to whatever they can do. Never again. What happens with Sean O'Malley next? That actually opens up some fun matchups. You got Corey Sandhagen. There's a lot of fun fights. Piotr?
I mean, first what he does is he brings the belt back to Red's Bar in Missoula, Montana, where last he was seen partying in the basement after planting the number 37 flag at the University of Montana Grizz.
You guys have a lot of pride over there in Montana, right?
Well, sure.
There
I
are
mean,
only like 7 people who live there, so it's easy for them to
Don't you
get
guys have
together. and
potatoes or
support.
something over there? Is that what you guys
that's
are known
Idaho.
for?
You're thinking of
Oh,
Idaho.
sorry.
They're our neighbors, but we don't have a whole lot of famous people coming out of Montana. So when we get one, then
What
people
about,
are going to
what about
support
Hannah?
them.
You have Hannah, Montana.
Jed,
That's true.
God damn it. You know what? No, I think that the UFC, I could see him doing something where we're just like, Sean O'Malley and Corey Sandhagen would be a fun stylistic matchup, something like I could see the UFC if they go, all right, we get the belt back on Sean O'Malley. Let's see if we can, make a little more of it before we put him in any of these fights that, where some wrestler is going to hold him down and grind him into a fine paste.
It's either a Piotr rematch because that fight was great and you do that, or non-zero chance Sean wins and is like, a lot of people are moving up weight classes. It's probably better to fight old Alexander Volkanovski than it is to just fight all these monsters at 135. The upside here is pretty big. You guys can have the belt. I'm moving to 145.
God, man.
Because
no.
Sean can back channel it and be like, hey, Dana, you know you hate Movsar Evloev? I have another way to keep him from fighting for the belt. This guy.
I will lose to him for you. I was going to say that he wanted to fight Ilya Topuria, actually. I remember Tim came on this show a few months before this whole thing happened. He lost the belt. They're already building towards that, So talking about the striking matchup. But come on. I mean, Corey Sandhagen, that's a fun fight. You got fun fights here. I thought that Sean O'Malley should have fought Jose Aldo rather than that joke of a fight UFC 315. Get Aldo to fight him. Maybe O'Malley, beats him. It's still a fun fight. It's a good way for Aldo to sort of be in there with someone that matters without being in a ridiculous fight that doesn't. He wins that one, yay. And then we work our way into another title shot. And then in the meantime, Merab fights like Corey or someone. You know what I mean? Like, could have played this one way better. I don't think O'Malley's getting lots of fans with his booking. I actually think people are a little turning a little bit on him because man, this guy shouldn't be having this title fight. No one really wants to watch this one. Hey, just quickly before we get into Tom Cruise top 3 movies of all time, which by the way, you guys start need to thinking about that in the comment section. We've got a fight night card coming up this weekend. Macy Barber is back. We've got Gamrot in rotation here. Jed, do you think that Arman should have just fought Gamrot here and gotten himself back into the talks when it comes to lightweight? Do you think he made a mistake by just being like, this isn't good enough for me?
I think he made a mistake in that he should have just done this for timeline. Like, he should be trying to fight as quickly as possible so he can be the next guy up. I don't think he made a mistake in that, fighting Mateusz Gamrot is a hard fight in general. I would favor him to win. Many people thought he won the first time. And so, if you could not fight hard fighters because you just be like, nah, I don't want to do that, and maybe get an easier fight down the line, holistically, that's not bad. And I don't think he hurt. The UFC is not mad at him and going to bad book him now. But he should have fought it because it was a fight that just made a ton of sense for him and would immediately get him where he wants to be as the guy who fights theoretically the winner of Topuria versus Oliveira.
What do you think, Ben? You said it's what we do last, right? That's what fans remember us for. What have you done for me lately? Arman hasn't really done much.
Yeah, I also think that sometimes, though, it's easy for us to sit back and as the matchmakers once said to me, think that you move these guys around like the chess pieces. That we can kind of look at it and
go, said that to you once? Who said that? Joe Silva?
Sean Shelby said it to me that sometimes fans and media, where we talk about fighters, where we think, hey, this guy would make sense against this guy, and their take was, yeah, and maybe sometimes we tried to make that fight, and the thing that you don't know is that guy has broken ribs, or his girlfriend kicked him out, or he's addicted to coke, and there are all kinds of different reasons that.
John Shelby was sick of you talking.
Who could the last one be about?
It was a different time altogether, so it could have been about a bunch of different people who are retired now.
Yeah, all the same person.
But yeah, sometimes we can look at it and just be like, hey, you should have stepped up and fight here, and you don't necessarily know if that guy felt like he was in a real position physically or otherwise to go in there and fight. I mean, obviously, if you could tell yourself, hey, I'll go in there and I'll fight and I'll win. Yeah, sure. That would be great. We've also seen people miscalculate in that way, where 1 minute you were the top contender in the world, the next minute you look up and you're riding a 3-fight losing streak and you're going, how the hell did this happen? And it's just kind of like a bad gambler just throwing more money on the table thinking that it'll solve it. Like that can absolutely happen too.
Yeah, but anyway, he's not getting a title shot anytime soon. No way.
No, they're
unless
still
Oliveira
mad.
maybe wins or something,
Yeah.
Jed. Like, what is the scenario here where Armin even gets? He's going to
He
have to fight
fights
at least
Justin
probably
Gaethje,
twice.
beats Justin
I reckon.
Gaethje.
Justin
He's gonna have to
Gaethje.
fight somebody.
Justin Gaethje's not fighting him. He'd rather fight Paddy Pimblett if that's going to be the case.
I mean, if I was Gaethje, I would rather do that too. But I think Justin Gaethje is a psychopath who will fight literally anybody. If the UFC is like, do this, be like, all right, cool.
Ben?
I mean, kind of agreed that Justin Gaethje is not picking too many spots in that, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think the UFC looks around at guys like Justin Gaethje and goes, we don't have a ton of these anymore. We need to be smart. And especially you got to be looking at somebody like Justin Gaethje and going, you don't know how many more Justin Gaethje fights you're going to get. So
Two max.
Yeah, like let's make sure that we
I think he's
squeeze
still
some good stuff out of it.
cheesed. Yeah, he's still cheesed. He's not getting the title shot. I don't know. I think Gaethje's just over it. He's golfing every day, apparently. Hey, just quickly as well before we go to Tom Cruise, did you guys watch the first episode of the new season of Tough?
Sure didn't.
I watched it. Ben, did you watch it?
Why would you do that?
I haven't
to
watched
yourself?
the Tough episodes.
I didn't know what we were going to talk about, so I put it in the title of the thing, and I'm like, shit, we didn't even talk about it. I put it on the thumbnail. I'm going to change the thumbnail after this.
Dennis, love yourself more. Don't watch Tough.
I couldn't even find it.
I thought that it had been going on. When I saw people being like Tough premieres, I was like, oh, I have assumed that we were 3 or 4 weeks into it. But I do like the idea of having Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen as the coaches because A, they both actually coach and give a shit about coaching people. And B, if we're going to have some fighters we know to be coaches, have them be retired fighters who we're not taking them out of the rotation. Like have them then be guys who are just like, well, they're hanging around anyway. They can go ahead and show up and it doesn't mess with any division or put anything on ice. Like I like that as an idea and it makes it easy. So it's like, if I want to ignore it, I can, and it doesn't matter for any division going forward.
Can I just say, like watching it, because I watched it because of you guys really screwed me on this one. I watched it and I was like, this is a dying, when you watch it, you're like, dude, like this just no longer works.
That's been the
if I want to watch this, I could watch an Apex card every single weekend. Like I could watch these guys literally fight. Like it's the same quality guy now. Also, I don't know, like I was thinking DC and Chael was going to work, but it's like a little bit, we'll see what happens. And I think, I don't know, they really should have done the thing where they bring back like Junie Browning and all these guys from like previous seasons and like Tough redemption. These guys were in rehab, so we thought, why not fight it out here?
We thought, why not ruin their lives again?
The rehab house, the rehab edition. I don't know, something fun like that.
There are 2 Toughs I would watch. If they were just going to take it out back and shoot it, I would watch The Death of Tough. Or if they're going to introduce an atomweight division and they do it the same way they did Tough 20 or whatever. Other than that, I'm not watching that show. Nobody should. It's bad.
I would watch it if they put it on in Dan Hooker's backyard. Like he just had that fighting tournament in his backyard. Oscar Willis was over there. He'll pop on later on the Submission Radio channel, talk about the craziness of all that. They were like literally mowing the lawn and getting dog shit off the backyard before these guys came in to fight. Put it in Dan Hooker's backyard. I think this guy understands fighting and promotion better than the UFC at this point because it gets more interest. Anyway, let's talk about Tom Cruise. Guys, for everybody out there at home, we are doing a Tom Cruise top 3. For everybody who doesn't know, Tom Cruise has obviously had an impact on me personally as I grew up. His movies have been a common theme throughout my life and have kind of been there for me during tough times, good and bad. I want to ask you guys before we get into the top 3, what is your feel on Tom Cruise? Obviously, personal life, the guy's a nut job and we can't connect with him at all. But as an actor and an entertainer, Jed, are you a big Tom Cruise guy?
I wouldn't say I'm a big Tom Cruise guy, but he doesn't really miss all that often.
No.
Like if all he's done lately is Top Gun and Mission Impossibles, and
there's a Days of Thunder remake coming up.
That's
a sequel, yeah.
That's dope. So like I'm in. But like just his whole history of being like he's undeniably one of the greatest movie stars who has ever lived. Could have been like a really good actor and instead was like, nah, I'm gonna be a great movie star. And that's, as a result, he has a whole shitload of awesome films. Seems weird as hell, but great movie star.
Yeah, when you look through his movies, you're like, holy shit, man. Like, we're going to talk about it in a sec. Ben, how do people in Montana feel about Tom Cruise?
Well, I don't want to speak for all Montanans on the
Come
Tom
on, you
Cruise
are. You're the
subject,
biggest thing out of Montana since
Just
Hannah.
ask the group chat. There's 7 of you in that whole state.
I mean, Tom Cruise is one of those guys where I remember him being somebody who it was very easy to recognize, like, oh, this is the thing that you have to be a movie star, is a weird magnetic quality that I can't quite explain. Like, it goes beyond just being like a good actor. Lots of people are good actors, but especially I remember seeing him in some movies, one of which I'll bring up when we get into our list of the favorite movies, where when he was a young guy and you'd see him just appear on screen and you'd be like, what is this? This guy has something that I don't want to look away. Like, it's a weird, it's even not even quite charisma, but like there's something about the guy that just like you realize this guy has something different that other people don't have. And like he's always sort of had that. And you're right though, that like you get to the point where he's at in his career now, and it's like, are you going to make movies until you die doing a stunt? Is that the goal at this point?
That's what he said, 120 or something. He said he was going to keep doing it till.
I mean,
that's a good way to go out. Die doing what you love, you know?
Oh, baby.
Jumping off a helicopter or something. Yeah.
So yeah. Jumping motorcycles over helicopters.
And he also helped save the cinema industry, right? In COVID, he held out with Top Gun. They were able to put that on in cinemas and recoup some whatever.
He's always trying to save
He's always trying to save things. All right, let's get into number 3, guys. So we're going to do our top 3, and then at the end, we're going to do some notable mentions for best and worst that didn't make the list. Jed, I want to go to you first. Before you mention it, how confident do you feel about your pick?
About my number 3 pick? I don't feel confident at all. My numbers 1 and 2, I feel rock solid. You can't talk me off of those.
Okay, good. All right, we'll make
number 3. You could convince me that there are 7 movies better than the one I chose. Like, he has a robust filmography of hitters.
And I think it comes down to like not critics, right? I think it's like what you love.
Oh yeah, I didn't respond to the critic thing. I mean, all of these I believe were fairly critically acclaimed, but I went with the ones I liked the most. And my number 3, I went Edge of Tomorrow because that's a banger of a sci-fi movie. It's really good. I watched it on a plane recently. Again, was like, this holds up. It still kicks ass. It's a great film.
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow, called Live, Die, Repeat. They couldn't market this movie, didn't do well at the box office, but it was a sneaky Tom Cruise movie, which is one of those more critically acclaimed ones, right? I think it's like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, man. Break this down.
It should be.
How did this make number 3, though, with all the classics that you just basically destroyed by not putting it in your top 3?
Well, I don't want to tell you the classic, like why, because then that would give away the rest of the list. But like for the other, so there's some obvious choices that I could have put here that aren't on my list that didn't resonate with me that much. Like I either kind of liked them or, like the little after my like prime youth viewing. Whereas this movie is just like, I love a really good science fiction movie. Give me a Groundhog's Day and put a fun Tom Cruise spin on it. Killing aliens. Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think it was also like surprising to watch Tom Cruise do a movie like this. He had just dropped a crappy movie with Emily Blunt called Oblivion or something recently. It was kind of looked similar, but it was a really surprising, fun movie. People need to check that out if they still haven't. Ben, give us your number 3.
I'm going to go Color of Money.
Oh, yes.
Paul Newman, Tom Cruise. This is the one I'm talking about where a young Tom Cruise
learns how to be a movie star.
Yes.
From Paul Newman.
You see him show up, or especially like he does very well in the role where he's like cocky, talented kid who doesn't understand anything about life or his own relationships, but is very good at something and just living like a guy who is like 21 and thinks he'll be 21 and good looking forever. And like he fits so well into that role. There's the scene where he is playing pool while Werewolf of London is playing on the jukebox, and he's moving around the table, doing like kung fu moves with his pool cue. You watch just that scene, you're like, you can see why this is going to be a movie star. Like he has a magnetic quality in that. Plus, as like a sequel to The Hustler from the great Walter Tevis novel with Paul Newman in it, like I was all in on this one.
I love that movie. It didn't make my top 3 because my number 3, fellas, is Show me the money, Jerry Maguire. Here we
What?
go. Let's get into this.
Wow.
Let's not mess around anymore. No more foreplay. I want to get straight in, hard body karate. Jerry Maguire. So many great monologues. Ben Fowlkes, you complete me. Jed, I'll take you to the zoo. You always love the zoo.
I mean, I love the zoo. Jerry Maguire's fine.
Hey, Jed, the fucking zoo's closed. Come on. No? How do you guys feel about Jerry Maguire? Good?
That's fine.
Most unbelievable
Gooding
part is
Jr.?
a sports agent giving a shit, you know? That's where it gets almost into sci-fi territory. But come on, I mean, we're gonna be out here talking about some "you had me at hello" kind of bullshit.
Come on, man.
I mean, look, that's iconic.
Dana White wakes up with cold sweats. He writes a mission statement to the rest of the TKO group. Less clients, more caring. No,
I don't think that's coming.
Put your balls out there. Hang your balls out there. No,
Fine choice.
Hey, not a great reception for my number 3. Jed, hit me with your number 2. You feel very confident about this one.
Oh, so functionally, my list is the 3 Tom Cruise movies I've seen the most and will rewatch. Like if it's on cable, I'm stopping for any of these 3. Also, you stipulated there's a stipulated rule, but that won't come to play for me yet. My number 2 is A Few Good Men because that is one of the greatest courtroom thrillers ever. The You Can't Handle the Truth final court scene with Caffey, awesome. The whole film. Why
you became a lawyer?
Not at all, but the movie's awesome. I love the thinking bat. You know, like I have a thinking stick that it's over here. I can get. You know what? Let me get my thinking stick. It's right here.
Thinking stick comes back with his pants off. Yeah.
This is my thinking stick.
It's an actual stick. Okay.
It's an actual stick.
Wow.
And if I'm just like, walking around trying to figure out what to write, I have my thinking stick. It's just an
How long
awesome
have you
movie.
had this stick for?
I don't know, a bunch of years.
Wow.
Not like 20 years, but longer than 5 probably. So it's just a great movie, and I will rewatch it if I'm flipping through the cable channels and it's on, we're stopping.
What's the scene for you?
I mean, you have to go. The final courtroom showdown is like that's the best scene by far.
Mm-hmm. Ben, this is a big number. That was a big number 2. How are you going to live up to that?
For my number 2, I'm going Tropic Thunder.
Oh wow!
I like it.
Ben's just hitting us with all sorts of sort of something.
Les, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Les Grossman, I think
Grossman.
it is. Where he shows up, and we're doing a lot with costume and makeup kind of stuff, and just sort of a different role for him to really lean into. But he kind of makes that movie. I mean, it's a pretty good comedy for what it is, just on its own. But then when he shows up as the studio head, telling people, take a big step back and fuck your own face. That's good. That's good Hollywood right there. I loved everything about it.
I'm just going to go to my number 2, which is, of course, as well, A Few Good Men. Jed, I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick a weapon and stand at post.
Stand at post.
Otherwise, whether Tom Aspinall or Jon Jones fight, I really don't give a damn. Jack Nicholson, his performance was incredible in this movie. Did you guys know that when they shot that courtroom scene, usually actors step out and there's like a stand-in that goes in? And Jack Nicholson stayed in that scene and delivered his monologue over and over and over for everybody else who did a close-up to get the best performance out of them. So he just sat there sweating. That's like take his costume off or whatever because it was so hot. But he would not leave, making sure that Tom Cruise and all these guys are actually able to have a great performance. You got to give Jack Nicholson some credit for this one. Number 2, A Few Good Men. So rewatchable. Number 1, Jed, hit us with it. I have a good feeling here.
Oh, this was the easiest choice of all time. The original Mission Impossible. I think that movie's a masterpiece. I know that many people like other ones better. It spawned the franchise. I think that movie is an actual masterpiece, and I've probably seen it 40 times. I know like the masks are hokey or whatever. There's a reason the whole thing works. It's still going today. I mean, even back like whenever that was 93 or whenever hell that movie was, like the set pieces still hold up today. Like the hacking.
Does the ending make sense? Does it make sense though, Ben? Does it make sense?
It's been so long since I've seen the original Mission. I mean, I remember enjoying it as I watched it. All I remember about the ending was that the masks came back into it and were involved.
You have to, because Mission Impossible. You got to have silly, goofy masks. And then the helicopter in the train tunnel is like, that's an incredible piece of imaginative filmmaking that still rocks 40 years later.
I just feel like when Dana White sends a message to people in HQ, it's like, this is the matchup. This message will self-destruct in 10 seconds or whatever. So no one finds out about the truth. Ben, what is your number one? Jed, by the way, how do you feel about Ben sort of being sneaky sexy with his list right now? Like, he's kind of being a little.
Both of those are like in the long list of greats. I didn't do Tropic Thunder because the rest of that movie is like good, but like if this were his better performances, I think he like is really good as Les Grossman, but the rest of Tropic Thunder hits and misses. Color of Money is a great choice, right? Like that's also like that is not a movie I have a great emotional attachment to for any reason. Like I have seen it to see it, but I didn't grow up watching Color of Money 40 times like I did the original Mission Impossible.
I think Ben is lining up for a big number one. Would I be right, Ben?
You're right. I mean, I considered going Night and Day, his movie with Cameron Diaz.
No, you
Get
didn't.
out of here. I did love that movie. Get out of here for number one.
It's surprisingly good. I also considered going American Made, which has no business being as good as it is.
That movie is not bad.
Come on, guys. That movie sucks. Is that really what your number one was going to be?
No, my number one, clearly 1999, Paul Thomas Anderson going to drop Magnolia on you with Tom Cruise as Frank T.J. Mackey, a role he was born to play, frankly, as like an early sort of like men's self-actualization pickup artist guru who also, when we learn about him, turns out to be just a lying scumbag. He's perfect in it. It's like an amazing portrayal of where he doesn't have a ton of screen time, which is surprising for a 3-hour movie that has Tom Cruise in it. But every single second he's on there is amazing and just a good, weird movie in general altogether. Number one, easy choice for me.
Ben, you're such a smart writer, right? This is a smart writer list. This is you heard me say I almost called it Night and Day. Let me tell you about my top three.
This is definitely the number one choice of a man who like sips a healthy cognac at the end. Mini leather in his study.
He goes to a cafe, gets like this overpriced coffee, works for yahoo.com. Like this is the kind of man that puts these lists together. As I go into my number one choice, which Ben, if you were dead, you would be turning around in your grave because Top Gun, number one. Come on.
Dennis, I would have bet a whole lot of money Top Gun was your number one choice.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I mean, as far as Tom Cruise as just pure movie star, Top Gun is, that's up there.
But can I tell you guys, so it's a dumb, stupid piece of crap movie. So you have to be impressed with the fact that they made it as good as it is. They had to dig out a ditch because Tom Cruise was so short for his co-star that she had to stand in a ditch at the bar so they could be close enough in height. I mean, come on, guys. How much more ridiculous can it get? I also want to bring up the you gotta love and feel and what about the sequel? I'm not going to include it, of course, but
it was great.
The sequel was great.
Surprisingly good.
And why does Tom Cruise laugh whenever he's about to have sex at people? This happened in Jerry Maguire as well with Renee Zellweger, where before they have sex, he starts laughing at them and doing weird things. And in Top Gun Maverick, for some reason, they're just sitting on the bed and he's laughing at her. And I think this is how he drinks a beer. He takes the beer, he puts it straight up there.
Because he's not a real human being.
When he tries to smoke a cigarette, it's hilarious.
When he runs, it's ridiculous.
He goes and plays volleyball with the boys in Top Gun, fellas, right? For some reason, they're playing volleyball, oil all over them in jeans. And then he's got a hot date with this chick for the first time. He jumps on his bike, goes to her house, big dick move. I'm going to have a shower at your house before we have our first date. Come on. Young Dennis writing down notes.
I just want to say, you question the end of Mission Impossible 2. What the hell? Like, they just suddenly there are some MiG fighters. Like, oh shit! We're not at like a war
Hey,
where you
it was
just are
tough.
some so you can blow something up.
It was
'cause we
tough
need
to
to
make
end this
a-
movie somehow.
You had to make a military movie in the 80s, and we like the era before America was in constant warfare with somebody. Like they had to make something up.
Yeah.
because it just
We
wasn't
have to end
going
it.
on.
So here are two rogue MiG fighters just over by us for some reason.
I love it. And by the way, there's a couple of notable mentions. Let's quickly drop into them. And then his worst movie. We didn't mention Cocktail, Rain Man, Last Samurai, Minority Report,
So the
Night and Day.
Outsiders.
Outsiders. And what about my favorite that didn't make the top list, was so close, Collateral. Did you guys ever watch Collateral?
Great
Oh,
film.
Collateral and Last Samurai were on my list of the worst.
What?
Those
You
are bad
Collateral's
movies.
on
You're
Last
a
Samurai,
sick-
sure.
you're a-
Collateral's good.
How do you
Bad
not
movie.
like
It's a bad
Collateral?
movie. Because it's bad. It's just
Come
bad.
on.
Dumb.
Ben Fowlkes walking through the night reporting MMA.
Collateral
like
is
Lone
not
Wolf.
like
There's
the
so much.
30th dumbest movie Tom Cruise has made.
Which one? Which one?
Collateral is not like remotely near
Nah.
the list of dumb movies Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
has
well, give,
I mean,
give
it's
us
no
a-
Vanilla Sky. That's for sure.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just-
that's one of the worst for sure.
I try to watch that and I'm like, this is not the movie I thought it was. What, did you guys ever try to watch it? You're like, this is not a movie that I
Can't
thought
say
it
I
was. Gonna...
have.
All right, Jed, what is your notable worst one? What do you?
I think that there are two that stand head and shoulders because we were talking about this off air. I also just haven't seen things that I thought would look bad because why would I do that? And so I'm maybe missing some, but the two I have seen, the aforementioned Night and Day, that movie is terrible.
What?
But to me, the runaway winner is The Mummy. That is
It's so
a
bad.
piece of shit.
Piece of shit. They were trying to do a franchise with that one, right?
Yeah,
that
and
was
it
a
killed
real-
the whole idea of doing a franchise. It was so bad.
God damn, that was bad. By the way, Ben, Night and Day, when you rewatch that, he just roofies women and then kind of like wake up. They wake up in a bed and
Yeah,
they
but,
got changed.
but he's doing it in like a nice guy way. Like he's not doing it in a dirtbag
Hey.
kind of way. Like
Trying to save you.
it's a movie that
Chloroform.
very much knows what it is, which is ridiculous, and I can appreciate that.
You know what I love about Ben? His top three is like New York Times at the cafe, $20 for a coffee, but then somehow Night and Day. It's still like he still fights
It
for
knows
Night
what it
and
is.
Day.
Knows
Night
what
and
it
Day.
is.
What is the worst one for you, Ben?
Jack Reacher, just
Yeah.
because
It's really bad because he's
he
5
can't
foot tall.
be Jack Reacher. If you
He's 5
read
feet
any of the Jack Reacher books, the dude is hammering you over the head with the fact that Jack Reacher is a monstrous human being. He will
Yes.
not go 3 pages in one of those books without talking about how big the guy's hands are, how enormous and how strong and badass he is. And then when we go to make the first Jack Reacher movie, we're going to cast Tom Cruise, famously tiny and at this point like damn near senior citizen movie star. Like it just makes no sense. Like they finally got it right with the Amazon series, and even then it just highlights how ridiculous it is with that, where we're like, oh yeah, Jack Reacher is a monstrous dude who's super jacked. He also, you never see him go into a gym or lift weights. He just walks the earth and is somehow 6'5", 280 pounds of solid muscle. But having Tom Cruise show up and try to be Jack Reacher, I was just like, you don't respect the audience. You do not respect our intelligence or our time. And good day, sir.
One of my favorite things about the Jack Reacher TV show is Alan Richardson was like doing the rounds or whatever. And I was like, yeah, so they didn't want to cast me because I am too small. I'm only 6'3", 240. And so like, I'm not actually Jack Reacher, but they cast Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, Tom Cruise is half of you. You are 2 Tom Cruises in a trench coat, and you are still not big enough for the character.
Dude, apparently Tom Cruise had to give his blessing for this whole thing to happen. There was all this crazy stuff that happened. But what about Alan Richardson as the seasons go on, as he got on the TRT, started looking like Chael Sonnen a little bit? Like this guy is like...
That man is not natty, if you're asking.
But I will say, if I'm looking at MMA reporters and journalists, the line up with the character, Jed, you're kind of like the kind of guy that wouldn't have an address, go town to town in a bus. You know, you can't be.
That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. I would
All right,
love
guys.
to just walk the earth.
I mean,
Be
Luke
like
Thomas
Kung
is
Fu.
our obvious Jack Reacher. Like,
No, Luke Thomas is Jack Reacher.
Yeah, very clearly.
Who would Ben be?
I see myself more as a Sam Spade type, but that's just because I like to drink, I guess.
John Wick.
John Wick? Yes, you're John Wick. Who would I be?
Ben has a dog. Who knows what would happen if somebody stole his car and did horrible things to his dog. I could see Ben just going full Montana on him.
Yeah, you don't want to find out.
Yeah, you and Chad, you're just like, they're asking if we're back. I'm thinking I'm back. All right, who would I
I've
be?
always thought of Chad as a John Leguizamo.
Yeah, it's a chameleon who can blend into any role, and just like John Leguizamo.
As we wrap up, and Jed, you think about who I would be as I do this outro thing. Co-main event podcast. Obviously, a huge honor for me to have you on the show for the very first time, Ben. Long overdue. What else is happening? Obviously, Uncrowned, Yahoo. You're all over the place. What's coming up this week?
Oh yeah, the co-main event podcast seems to never end, and we enjoy all of our co-maniacs out there. But then, I got plenty of stuff coming up on Uncrowned. I got a Substack somewhere out there that I update sometimes. So yeah, plenty of places you can find me.
Nice. I'll check that in the link below when this goes up on the channel. Jed, who am I?
I don't know. That's hard. I can't pull this one off the top of my head because there's not like a lot of options out there for Australian via Eastern Europe. It's just, there's not a lot of roles that coincide with that. So give me some
Florence
time.
Pa and the new Avengers. All right, what you got? What's coming up this week on MMA fighting? What can we look out for?
I don't know. We're covering this dog shit card this weekend.
Are you assigned to it?
No, I actually do have a thing for you to look out for. It's not for me, but tomorrow, Mike Heck, his long-awaited episode 2 of Swing Rounds. Mike Heck goes golfing with Derek Lewis. I have seen some of it, not all of it. It is just as amusing as you would imagine it would be to go golfing with Derek Lewis.
Does he just use the driver on every single shot? That's
but when he hits the ball, it goes quite far. He doesn't always hit the ball, and sometimes he might throw the ball and pretend that he hit the ball. It's terrific. It's everything you would expect from Derek Lewis on a golf course. So that drops tomorrow morning. So tune into that. Everything else, MMAfighting.com, great website.
Beautiful. All right, and keep out. I got a couple of big things coming on the channel this week, but I won't reveal them just yet. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Ben Fowlkes, Jed Meshew, that is me. Dennis Corral of Submission Radio Live is out. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time.